When the office of the special prosecutor was formed, some of us made it clear that the man who created the office himself was an entire entity submerged in deep corruption. He was a man who had no focus in fighting the menace of corruption, and was a man who, if he allows himself for 1 minute, will stand trial for corruption. People didn't believe us. When Martin Amidu appeared before the committee, he said he would hold corruption by the horn. To Mr. Martin Amidu, corruption was a cow. Little did he know that it was a deadly, poisonous snake that he would not see unless he assumes office as a special prosecutor. Months after, what happened? The man resigned. One afternoon we woke up and Mr. Martin Amidu was choked with corruption. He had to run for his life. And when he was asked what was pursuing him, he said it was the mother serpent of corruption. And that was Mr. Akufo-Addo. He ran. Why? The president took a pen and paper, a contract of Ameri that was signed under the NDC. In an attempt to get chop cut from it, 510 million was ballooned to 1.3 billion. When Mr. Akufo-Addo was questioned on it, he came and told us he wasn't thinking right. When you attempted duping the state and you were exposed. Mr. Martin Amidu said it was choking. Why? The president, on repeated basis, Nyantechi, told us that Mr. Akufo-Addo, when you enter his office and give him bundles, he will shake the head down 3 million. All contracts will be yours. To the extent that Nyantechi said he has caught Mr. Akufo-Addo and it's in his pocket because of corruption. Mr. Martin Amidu said it was stinking, so he couldn't survive under this economy. Alistair Matthias, a gold mafia, said all these Akufo-Addo is my best friend. I mean, a man who does corruption in Africa. Every corrupt expose in this country has fingered the man who appointed the office of the special prosecutor.
Why would he appoint the special prosecutor,
Mr. Akufo-Addo,
if he has no intention of fighting corruption? I asked Bernard the same question.
Because this same man told us he would adopt the ANAS principle. Go and ask him to answer that question first before we come to OSP. It was a campaign promise. So he ought to have done it. But he did it with no intention of prosecuting. And let me do a little education to Awal. He said there's a 6-unit team, IGP, intelligence. He mentioned somebody chairing on the board. And that gives them independence. He hasn't read this act. Let me tell you where their independence ends. It ends at section 4, clause 2. The office shall, for the purposes of this act, be authorized by the Attorney General to initiate and conduct prosecution of corruption and corruption-related matters. Finito.
And
which means that the OSP appointed by Mr. Akufo-Addo has to seek clearance from another minister of Mr. Akufo-Addo before he prosecutes his own colleagues, ministers, and even the man who appointed both of them, Mr. Akufo-Addo. Why is it that when 10,000 bags of salad rice got missing at the port, where Alhaji Bawumia was fingered, and they said they shared it as Ramadan rice, 10,000 seized from a businessman, why didn't they investigate that? Why is it that when appearance fee matter, when they said Alhaji Bawumia, and I've repeatedly said that, as for Galamsey, we those from the north don't know how to collect kickbacks. Where did Alhaji Bawumia learn that? 250,000 before you sit by him. When that matter was put before him, the Charles Edubuahin matter, the OSP told us, in fact, he was pleading for us to pass the Corruption Practices Act. He says in his law, this is the first one, this is the regulation. He says in these two things, corruption hasn't been defined. So he doesn't know what he's investigating. It is here, and I can read it for you. The OSP further pleads that the president passes the Corrupt Practices Act to support in his investigations. So all these acts were brought into force. It doesn't define corruption. That is why when Alhaji Bawumia was fingered in 250,000 corrupt bribery scandal to sit by him, the OSP couldn't investigate. He was crying. Look, now the country has been choked.
You're saying
different corrupt deals. When PDS came, and let me explain it to you, the vice president changed an insurance, a bank guarantee that was supposed to be used in the PDS debacle to an insurance guarantee. And allowed the company to present a fraudulent one to the state. They duped the state, I beg your pardon, over 500 million. Till date, 500 million of your money is seated at PDS's account. They have refused to pay for it, all in the doing of this Alhaji Bawumia. And yet the OSP cannot investigate because in his act, he doesn't even understand what corruption is. He's pleading.
Yes.
When the